Hello everyone, and welcome to today's video. Today we are going to be just having a chat about what it takes to be successful with a healthy diet long term. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Nutrition by Victoria, and I specialize in metabolic health. So I help you to eat and move in a way that is going to increase your metabolism, that is going to help you to achieve and then be able to sustain an effortlessly fit, healthy, and lean body based on your genetic potential. So that is my goal with my clients. That is what I have achieved for myself, and that is what I am here to talk to you guys about today. So there's several components that play into having a high functioning metabolism. I go into the science in my coaching program. I was going to do a big edit with my coaching program because I created it a few years ago, about 2 or 3 years ago. And then I realized, the information there is still extremely relevant, and I think that I'm going to go ahead and just create something new moving forward. Maybe new ebook or something. I haven't created an ebook yet. I've just done my program. So I think maybe I'll move forward with that. So for those of you who are interested in learning more about the science behind why the diet that I promote, which is a high carb, low fat, plant-based vegan diet, works so well, get a copy of my coaching program and learn all of the science so that you understand how this works, and then you can kind of move forward with making it work for you. So in the coaching program, I do go over all the science and then the application process as well of how to form your diet and then what you need to do with your lifestyle in order to really start reaping the benefits. Some people get the benefits right away. I mean, actually, I'd say most people do. Everybody does who sticks to it. But in terms of weight loss, the weight loss component of it, that can be challenging for some depending on where you're coming from. Most people adopt this way of eating post dieting, post restriction, and that can usually require an adaptation period where your body has to get used to having an ample supply of carbohydrates in the diet. All is good though, because that's what is required for having a high functioning metabolism is lots of carbs. Carbs translate to our energy, or our potential energy, right? Especially as we build upon insulin sensitivity. So the more insulin sensitive you become, the more energy you're going to be able to create within your cells because everything is working efficiently and effectively. A lot of times, people, when they're dealing with weight gain associated with consuming more carbohydrates, it has more to do with insulin function than anything. Most people have a certain degree of insulin resistance, and that is usually due to past dieting habits, whether that is eating too much fat, so the fat is blocking the insulin receptor sites from being able to work properly, or you've been under eating. So today I am going to be featuring a person who's been eating a whole foods plant-based diet. We're kind of going to go over what she's doing wrong, in an effort to help other people not to make the same mistakes. Okay, so what I have pulled up here is the dietetic factors influencing the glucose tolerance and the activity of insulin by H.P. Hemsworth, published in January of 1934. This information is still extremely relevant, and this is found in the Journal of Physiology and the National Library of Medicine. So, the take home from this research paper is that Sugar tolerance is impaired by starvation or the taking of diets with a high content of fat, while it is improved by taking diets containing an excess of carbohydrate. So, insulin sensitivity is dependent on a sufficient amount of carbohydrates being in the diet and a low fat intake. And that's why I have the results that I do because I've been doing this for over the last decade. And I even remember being a young person and favoring sugary treats, um, low fat starch dishes. I never had a palate for fats, and I was always a relatively lean person until I went into recovery post dieting. And actually, prior to that, I did, experience my first bout of weight gain associated with a higher fat intake when I was in college, the freshman 15 or freshman 20, whatever I had gained because I was eating a bunch of junk. So I can relate to the information that is included in this research paper in regards to insulin function. I'm more insulin sensitive now than I was post dieting. Okay. The diet period that I went through made my body favor fat storage via insulin, making me insulin resistant. The same goes when you're consuming more fats. The weight gain is favored because you're eating more fats. The fat you eat is the fat you wear, and it also impairs insulin function. Okay. So, those are just some pointers to keep in mind as we move forward here. Okay. So today we are going to listen to Melissa Alexandria. I'm not sure if any of you are familiar with her, but she actually has quite a few followers on her channel. She's been around for some time. I can't remember when I first came across her, but every once in a while, I'm not subscribed to her channel, but every once in a while, YouTube will send me some of her videos. And I hadn't seen anything from her in a while. And this one, I changed my diet, what I ate today, popped up. So I clicked on it and left a comment that she included in her most recent video and we'll talk all about this soon. But let's go ahead and analyze Melissa Alexandria's video and see uh, if she is changing her diet for the better or for the worse.
Recently, I've made a few tweaks to my diet, and so I thought I would share with you what has been working for me lately, as well as showing you what I ate today.
Okay, so for those of you who don't know Melissa, she's been eating a whole food plant-based diet for a while now. She's of similar age to myself, and she lost about 30 pounds and, got healthier doing the high carb, low fat thing. But I will say that she has been very focused on calorie density, and I think that that's kind of been her downfall. Just giving a little bit of an intro for those of you who don't know her. And maybe actually, what I'll do here is go to her channel real quick. Yeah, so this is Melissa. And she does weight loss coaching. She's got before and after videos here. Um, yeah, so you can check out her other content. She does have some like good recipes, but what I will say from knowing her backstory is that she had a yo-yo dieting history, okay, where she would be vegan but eating like junk food, and then she lost all her weight doing the low calorie density thing, which does work, but ultimately ends up causing its own problems because of the insufficient carbohydrate intake. So we're gonna talk about that now. Okay. All right, so I gotta go back to the video.
If you
And it's gonna make me watch an ad. But yeah, this is nothing personal against Melissa whatsoever. I just found it disturbing some of the information that she shares in this video. So let's check it out.
Recently, I've made a few tweaks to.
So right now she's making a smoothie that has spinach, frozen bananas, frozen cherries, coconut milk, vanilla extract, and water. So this ends up looking like a classic green smoothie, which is generally what she does, is like when she makes a smoothie, she makes a green smoothie. And something I want to just let everybody know also that I know about Melissa is that she doesn't follow like fruit till four, raw till four. So she doesn't practice like proper food combining that can make or break your success with this diet long term in terms of like digestive stability, if that makes sense. So when you have fruit after starch, like a smoothie after starch, it can cause a lot of gas and bloating that can potentially, be a deterrent from sticking to this diet long term if that's something that you're always experiencing. So I am not only like specialized in metabolic health, but I also like to think that I'm specialized in digestive health when it comes to eating in a way that's going to optimize your digestive functioning and stability in terms of minimizing any kind of like issues with digestion that can make you feel not so good, like gas and bloating. Okay, so the one thing that I noticed here is the coconut milk. I don't know, the fat content of that, but I'm already like going to say that that is going to be a big change for her is adding the coconut milk. That is going to be a higher fat content. She usually would add like fat-free soy milk or almond milk, which has a lower fat content than coconut milk. So I'm already noticing that the fats are increasing.
As showing you what I ate today on the screen while we have a little chat. So, first, if you haven't watched my videos before, I lost over 30 pounds following a low calorie density plant-based diet. Now, many would consider this to be extreme. I followed it to a T while I was in the weight loss phase. Zero treats, zero food with oil, no dining out except for sushi rolls, which were veggie rolls with rice and some edamame, but almost exclusively my meals were made.
Okay, so she's telling us how she was eating to lose the weight. And high carb Hannah does the same thing where she eats for calorie density and focuses on low calorie density food options. And while fruits, starches, vegetables, and legumes all fall under the low calorie density umbrella in terms of them just by default being lower in calories compared to sugar and oil and animal products, it's important to note that in order to be successful with your diet long term, you really need to establish a understanding of calorie density balance. Okay, this is something that I've included in my coaching program where I teach you how to form your diet using the lower calorie density foods that, again, by default are your fruits, vegetables, starches, and legumes. So you're going to be creating your meals out of these foods because they are your whole foods, right? They contain nutrients and fiber, and they're going to fill you up. But in order for you to meet your calorie and carbohydrate energy needs every single day, especially as you lose the weight, it's important to add on uh, higher calorie density options like dates or dried fruit or juice or sugar. I focus on adding high calorie density carbohydrate add-ons to the diet in order to promote satiety and to promote success long term. So she mentions that she would never eat out and that she wouldn't eat, she was strict while she was traveling. When you open the door to having more options because you're not just subscribed to this low calorie density diet, but rather you're subscribed to a high carb, low fat vegan diet, then you're giving yourself more options for when you are traveling that will allow you to stay on the diet protocol. I myself have been doing this for over a decade, and never at any time have I needed to eat anything that wasn't on my plan. Okay. And so we're going to let her talk a little bit more about this concept, but I just want to make note here. I believe this is her lunch. She's got a tortilla wrap, which these generally have oil in them. So this is a change to her diet where she would normally not have something like this. You can make your own oil-free tortillas, but most of the store-bought ones do contain oil. And then she's also adding some vegan cheese here. This is something I would make for my kids. My kids do follow a vegan diet, but they also include more fats in their diet. It's predominantly high carb, but we do include more fats that help them to meet their calorie needs and also growth demands. But for an adult who is trying to get and or stay lean, and you are, sedentary or low activity or even moderate activity, I would say ditch the fats, okay? Because it's going to disrupt your insulin sensitivity and could promote weight gain if you're not careful about adding these things. But in Melissa's case, and in her defense right now, it looks like she actually does need to gain weight. So adding the fats at this point in the video made and makes a lot of sense to me. Although I would add a lot more to this. I'd have rice here, not just the lentils and the cheese and the wrap, because that's going to help to promote satiety as well.
But almost exclusively my meals were made at home. And I
And here's the thing with adding more fats, right? You know, you're generally going to need to add more fats as an adult when you've lost too much weight. Okay, so you want to slow down your metabolism. You want to promote some insulin resistance so that your body can store a little bit more fat, right? And even eat more fats to store more fat. But from my experience, eating a high carb, low fat diet, that doesn't happen unless you've been under eating. So I think that that could be potentially what has happened to Melissa.
did not veer off of the, potato, rice, veggie dishes with some beans and lots of fruit. And so that's what I ate exclusively. So I have probably over 100 videos on my channel showing those meals.
Yeah, she has many videos showing that she ate exclusively low calorie density. Like I said, is that going to promote the weight loss? Yes. Is it going to be sustainable though? In Melissa's case, I don't think so. And I don't think that it was the healthiest approach. Again, with this meal, where's the rice? Okay. A little too fatty, not enough carbs. So, what Melissa is doing is making her body more insulin resistant via these meals that she's showing us. Not enough carbs and too much fat is a double whammy for it.
Now, it works great because I'm a homebody and I'm almost always at home. However, I would run into trouble every time I traveled because I was out of my element and around a lot of delicious vegan treats that I was tempted by, and it wasn't always easy to prepare my meals the way I do at home, having
Okay. It's inevitable that you're going to have to leave your house at some point and make dietary choices that you don't have full control over. But you do have control over it because her saying the delicious vegan treats, okay, tells me as an expert, because I've been doing this for so long, that her brain was registering that because she wasn't eating enough. Because her brain and body are saying, we need more food. So, of course, a vegan chocolate bar is going to look appetizing when you are subscribing yourself to a low calorie density diet strictly. Okay. But you could fix this and you can fix this by increasing the higher calorie density carbohydrate options like juice and dried fruit and dates and sugar and flour products like pretzels and bread and rice cakes, things that she would tell people in her videos about weight loss to avoid, okay? Should people avoid the fats if weight loss is a goal? Yes. Should people avoid the high calorie density carbohydrate options? Absolutely not. Now, they shouldn't make up the majority of your diet, but they should be included in the diet in a way that balances the calorie intake and still continues to promote fat loss via a dietary fat deficit and also insulin sensitivity by optimizing insulin function and glucose tolerance. Okay, let's move forward.
My rice cooker, having my air fryer with me. So I tended to eventually get tempted by, the higher calorie density junk foods and end up eating that food while I was away. And then
There we go. She got tempted by the higher calorie density junk foods because she's not prepared and she's under eating. Okay, if you can't leave your house and go to the gas station without being tempted by the, you know, chips and other vegan junk food and non-vegan food that's there, then you are not eating enough calories. And it's very, very basic, okay? Increase the carbs in your diet and you won't have this problem. Also, when I travel, I always bring with me food. I bring with me rice cakes, I bring with me pretzels, I bring Sour Patch Kids, and I bring some kind of fruit that I can put in my bag that won't go bad, like clementines or apples, so that I'm always prepared with something. And then if I run out of food, I have options to get the high carb, low fat foods from other stores. There's always a Walmart, there's always a gas station, there's always a Target, like at places that you go to that you can get the foods that work with the protocol that helps you to meet your goals.
it would be the same pattern over and over again. I just kind of give in to eating this way and then say, when I'm back home, I'll get myself back on track.
So that would be called being in a binge purge cycle where we're gonna, stick to our strict low calorie density uh, restriction diet at home, but then when we go out, we're going to binge because we can't control our appetite because we are constantly under eating. And Melissa's weight got so low too that her hormonal response, likely because her leptin was too low, was we need to eat this high calorie density, high carb, high fat junk food, okay? Because she's not really specifying what it is, and I don't think she does specify what that food looked like, but I can guarantee you it was not, the sugary options that are low in fat that I recommend and eat myself.
Now, for probably for months or maybe even years now, I've been in the back of my head saying, I really want to figure out a way to eat this way.
Okay, we've got chocolate coming in here. Now, I know that these chocolate chips are higher in fat content, but then you also have the stimulant there too. I use chocolate chips when I bake for my kids or make them other kinds of treats, so I know that the fat content there is higher. But also, like, generally, you're gonna crave stuff like this. The chocolate, now she's pairing here a high calorie density option with the chocolate with the low calorie density oatmeal. And she also added stevia to the oatmeal instead of sugar. So she's still thinking that sugar is bad but fat is good. And that's actually what a lot of influencers do. Carolyn Deisler is guilty of this as well. I was watching a story of hers today on Instagram, and it was saying how she wished that everybody could taste her, treats that she makes because it would get them off of the refined sugar. The refined sugar is not a problem, and not to mention the sugar content, the natural sugar content, and even the added sugar content, because she will use like maple syrup and coconut sugar, is still like high. So why like rip on refined table sugar when it's essentially the same thing, okay? I'm not saying that people need to go out and eat a whole lot of refined sugar, but let's have some like rational thoughts here about what we're saying and the message that we're sending people, because Caroline in the next story will show herself eating like potatoes covered in oil or adding oil to her pasta dishes. Oil is going to be more problematic than sugar, and I'm going to show you exactly why. We need to recognize here, that this whole healthy fat acceptance thing is not healthy, okay? And we need to stop demonizing sugar. In regards to advanced glycation end product formation, we need to understand that carbohydrate-rich foods such as vegetables, fruits, and grains contain relatively few AGEs. And that's why they're so good for us, because they don't cause damage via oxidative stress and inflammation to our system. But foods that do increase oxidant stress and inflammation in our system are those that, let's see here, are high in fat and protein because they're rich in advanced glycation end products. So we're going to go down here, and I'll put a link to this study in the description of this video today. We're going to go down to oil, olive oil, because olive oil is looked at as a healthy food, okay? Caroline Deisler uses olive oil. I'm not sure if Melissa is using the olive oil yet, but you know, the purpose of this video is to be educational. So we're gonna focus on the olive oil for a second. Olive oil has an AGE rating of 11,900. For a serving, it's about 600. So we're talking probably about a teaspoon. Okay. That is a very high number. Why? Because it is a concentrated source of fat. So it's going to promote oxidant stress and inflammation on our system. A lot of people also like to eat nuts. We're looking at roasted cashews here. This is another one for Caroline Deisler. 9,800 for the AGE rating with a serving size of almost 3,000. This is causing damage to your body while in the meantime you're thinking refined sugar is bad. Let's go down here and take a look. White sugar has an AGE rating of 0. Let that sink in. It does not promote oxidant stress and inflammation to your system. Why? Because sugar goes to your cells and creates energy, okay? And then it's used up, and that's the end of it. The problem that arises though is sugar is guilty by association because people are eating it in a way where fat content is not controlled. And it needs to be in order for you to have really good health, low inflammation, and insulin sensitivity. Well, let's see if coconut anything is on here. It might be. They got soy, pork, poultry, beef, fat liquid. Let's see. I don't see any coconut there. Avocados on here though, 1,500 for the AGE rating. Still high, in comparison to sugar. So when people are telling you that healthy fats are healthy, they're not, okay? And they need to be controlled in the diet if you want the best results. So in that case, you're always wanting to favor the high carbohydrate foods over the fatty foods, making the fatty foods, the lowest you know, intake of your diet, right? Unless, you need to gain weight, then eating more makes more sense there, but you also need to stop demonizing sugar because I think a lot of people, if they just stopped demonizing the sugar, they wouldn't have to mess around with the fats because their body mass index would stay within a normal, healthy range. Okay. Same with hormone function.
To follow a oil-free, low-fat vegan way of eating because I do believe it's the best for health and it's what I feel great eating. But I want to be
She's right. But you need to look at the dark chocolate chips. No sugar added. Okay, the sugar's not the problem, Melissa. It's the fats, okay? But in your case, you need to gain some fat right now. So enjoy your fats, but stop demonizing the sugar. And like I said, if you just have the sugar in your diet without the fats, you're going to maintain a normal, healthy BMI and you're going to maintain normal, healthy insulin sensitivity and glucose tolerance, along with normal, healthy hormone function.
able to maintain that while traveling, while going to birthday parties, while having, a
So this meal's okay because gnocchi is a little bit higher in calorie density in terms of like carbohydrate. Oil-free pasta sauce, great. Broccoli slaw, chili flakes, salt. This looks like a great meal. Okay, I want to listen to a little bit more of what she's saying, so I'm going to like rewind this just a bit.
a life outside of the home as well. And that is where it is very challenging because our society is not set up for us to be our healthiest selves. It's set up for us to want to buy the yummy treats because they're everywhere. So
Okay. The treats, the yummy treats, aren't yummy if the sugar's taken out. Okay. So the temptation for those things leaves the room when you consume enough carbohydrate in your diet. So with that oatmeal that she had, I would have added these, which is what I ate earlier. Whole pack, 8 ounces, medjool dates. That will curb the craving for the chocolate and increase carbohydrate calorie density. So then we don't need to eat the fats, okay? Then we end up having more energy too to do fitness training. And fitness training is a very healthy way to maintain a healthy, well, to get and maintain a healthy BMI, but also to improve oxygen uptake and increase insulin sensitivity. So it's like a win-win with high carb, low fat and balancing your low calorie density main meals, fruits, vegetables, starches, legumes, with the higher calorie density carbohydrate options like juice, dried fruit, dates, sugar, and flour products. Okay, we got another ad. So far, I'm just hearing, some distorted eating language coming from Melissa, and I don't think that she realizes that she's created this cycle within herself because of the strict diet that she has conditioned herself to believe that she needed to do, right? And I just think it's so strange that when people like her and many others, like High Carb Hannah and Caroline Deisler, when they inherently cannot continue eating this way, and what I mean by that is low calorie density, they default to these fats. Like, what's the deal with that? And then they still continue to think that sugar's bad.
recently that has really been working, and I'm all about tweaking. I don't ever call myself a failure when I quote unquote mess up, and that's what I teach anyone that I help lose weight is that if you look at everything as an experiment and as something that you can tweak, then you'll never give up because you'll just say, okay, that didn't work. tomorrow let's try this. And I really think that's the key to me being able to stick with this way of eating and maintain the 30-pound weight loss for as many years as I have.
Okay, here we can see what Melissa looks like. And what I'm looking at is a person who is underfed. Sure, she is skinny and lean and probably, a goal for many people. But what I'm also seeing is tired eyes and gray hair. And what that means is that she has promoted too much stress in her body that is aging her because of this strict adherence to the low calorie density way of eating. Plus, she's had children, so a lot going on. Um, then we're going to get into, the way that she is tweaking her diet. So we've seen some addition of more fats, which is great, but, we're still not eating enough carbohydrate. And I do agree with her about like once you have established a diet that works for you, a high carb, low fat, plant-based, preferably vegan diet that you can stick to, and it just feels really natural for you to do every single day, then we'll move forward with troubleshooting from there. Once we get that foundation built and the stability there, then we'll move forward. But in her case, she didn't have a foundation to begin with, which is why her house is crumbling. She needs to recover at this point from the metabolic damage that she has created within her body from strict adherence of a low calorie density diet for too long. And that's what this video is about. I mean, for her even too, is I'm changing my diet because I'm probably having XYZ problems and I need to make some changes. I need to make some improvements. But by adding the healthy fats and not increasing the carbohydrates and still shunning sugar, we're not making progress in the right direction.
Is the fact that I always just say, okay, well, what can I change now? This isn't working, or I messed up, but I'm not a failure. This just didn't work, so let me just mix it up and try something new. Just that scientist sort of mindset of experimenting. And so something I experimented with lately is narrowing my feeding window. So narrowing, I don't do one meal a day, but I eat between 4 and 5 hours a day. So
Is Melissa moving in the right direction? Or does she actually have a bigger problem that she's not coming to terms with? So, um, we are not going to continue watching that video because I think we've heard enough. She's now narrowed her eating window to 4 to 5 hours a day. Mind you, she is a mother of two small children, and she's only going to eat for 4 to 5 hours a day, and then she's going to fast the rest of the time. Women cannot fast for that long every single day without experiencing some issues with their hormones. And that is because cortisol takes over. And while cortisol can make it so that you feel more energized, it actually acts as a protectant against the damage that you're causing within your system. So cortisol goes elevated when you have a lot of inflammation. Cortisol goes elevated when you have a lot of stress. So that's something to keep in mind here. Now, this video has had 3.2K views in 4 days, so hopefully I'm able to reach some people with my message. But my comment here is at the top, and I said, I've been eating a high carb, low fat diet for 14 years, always eating as much as I want and with no crazy rules. It's effortless to maintain my lean body, excellent fitness, great health with 100% food freedom. No binging, no purging, no issues, okay? I said, Melissa, you are trapped in the rabbit hole of restriction and it's showing in your language. food choices, and physical appearance. This video is a very clear example that you have disordered eating. All you need to do is eat enough calories, particularly from carbs, so that your body can heal. She replied. Melissa said, nothing to heal my body from. Are you sure about that? Okay. You don't look like you could run around the block, sweetheart. And that's just a personal opinion. Okay. I've been eating high carb, natural plant foods for many years as well, which we know this. She's been subscribed to low calorie density, which includes fruits, vegetables, starches, and legumes. As mentioned in the video, I find eating all my meals close together saves time, gives me more energy, and not eating at night helps me avoid nighttime mindless snacking. I don't find that disordered. Why would you need to nighttime mindless snack if you're not hungry because you didn't eat enough food? Okay. And then gives her more energy. That's cortisol. All right. Someone else said a 4 hour window seems a bit much. I did an 8 hour window before, but lost my period, so stopped. That is where this chick is headed if she's not already there. Okay. Do we have, some kind of an obsession with being super petite? I don't know. Like I remember being there myself, and a lot of people who engage with the high carb, low fat, plant-based vegan, particularly whole foods, low calorie density diet, are masking potential, disordered eating habits fueled by this desire to be super petite. Now, that's not to say having a goal of being, a lean person is disordered. It's the approach to it. Are you eating sufficient carbohydrates? Do you fear sugar? Can you run, a 5K? Can you walk, a decent amount of miles? Can you ride a bike? Like, what is your fitness level, right? Because fitness level is going to be a reflection of your nutrition more than anything, because it has to be so dialed in order for you to get fitter. So that's why I really like to use fitness as a parameter other than just weight loss on the scale. And I know from watching Melissa's videos that she has said multiple times that she's gotten too skinny. Well, increase your carbohydrate calorie intake. And that's not what I saw in this video. The gnocchi looked like a very small portion. Like this is the size of the fork and this is the size of the bowl, and we really don't have much other, way to tell like how much is in that or how big this bowl is, but it looks relatively small. And then the oatmeal bowl looked pretty big. But again, we've got the chocolate there, the no sugar chocolate, and then the addition of the stevia. And then with the smoothie, this is a standard glass smoothie, 16 ounces, and it's got the coconut milk added to it, which is fine for where she's currently at if weight gain is the goal, but she also needs to increase the carbs. Like I said, in this burrito, she could have had more rice. Like, where was the rice? Like, why aren't we having rice with our burrito? I don't know. Okay, and then there was more comment. There's another comment down here. Oh, Lean by Nature commented here. Have you seen any of the work from Dr. Stacy Sims suggesting that IF for women is not a good thing? She specifically does studies on women and not on men like most IF studies are on. Interesting. No, I haven't. Of course you haven't. I mean, the other thing too that I want to get into about Melissa is that she doesn't follow this proper food combining that I've suggested. In this video, she did, where she had her fruit first, but why are we only having the smoothie? Where's the rest of the fruit? And I think that, like, a problem that people can run into with eating whole food, low calorie density is one, not following the fruit first rule. The fruit first rule allows for minimal digestive distress on the system due to the fermentation reaction that occurs from fruit just, you know, being so quick to digest in the system. So it ferments real quickly and then it's done. It digests real quickly and it's done. And it doesn't like, you don't want to put anything there that's like starchy or solid, really, that's going to interfere with its rate of digestion, right? And slow, like this is the common image is that uh you've eaten your starch, right? And then you're going to have like apples afterwards, and those apples start fermenting at a faster rate than that starch is even moving through the GI tract. So as those apples ferment and they can't like get anywhere because the oatmeal's in the way, then you can have gas and bloating develop. So that's the number one thing. If you're having digestive issues, you don't need to do IF. You just need to practice proper food combining by having your fruit first. And that's what I teach in my coaching is eat your fruit first. Like front load your diet with fruit. Have it for breakfast, have it for lunch, or at least get it all in before you start your starches, and then you're done with your fruit for the day. The second thing, too, would be fat and fiber are going to slow down the rate of digestion. So, if you're having a lot of fiber and you're having more fat in your meals, then you're going to feel like you can't eat anymore because that food's just not moving. And then you end up with this big Buddha belly and you're like, oh man, what gives? So, that's probably what she's also experiencing. Plus, I'm just, talking off the top of my head. I do all these videos completely impromptu. Um, if you are chronically under eating, okay, like I believe our gal Melissa here is doing or has done in the past, you atrophy your digestive muscles, okay? So even if you're sending all this like fiber through, if there's not enough carbohydrate, those cells are not going to be able to work properly. This is something that I experienced when I was like super underweight, not really eating a lot, falling low calorie density back in the day, doing intermittent fasting. When I would eat something, it would feel like it was taking a lot of energy from my system for it to be processed. So that might be where she's at and why she's opting for this IF, intermittent fasting, because her system is not able to handle the food that she's putting in. What I would suggest in this case to improve gut transit time and motility would be to increase carbohydrate content, lower fat, and lower fiber, and even add sugar to meals, especially like smoothies and oatmeal, where it's going to be something sweet, that you're favoring instead of savory. With the savory, I would increase sodium content, so add a sprinkle of salt on top. You use some soy sauce. This will help with increasing colon transit time as well and minimizing digestive discomfort and increasing digestion. Salt helps to break down starch. Sugar helps to neutralize any kind of FODMAPs that could be hanging about or too much fructose. So these are just things to keep in mind. There was another comment down here that I wanted to just talk about. Okay. Enough for 25 says, I definitely think that I can relate to the energy aspect of not eating. Yes, because when we don't eat, our body's going to release more cortisol, particularly when it needs to eat and is not being fed. But I've heard that it's because you're running on stress hormones. Yes, exactly. And so I'm nervous about doing that as a woman age 50. So that's exactly what gets women age 50 or menopausal women to gain more weight in their belly, in their lower belly, is cortisol. And we want to manage cortisol by eating enough carbohydrate every single day so that cortisol can stay within its normal healthy range and we can be insulin sensitive because increased cortisol promotes insulin resistance. And why is because under eating promotes insulin resistance and impairs glucose tolerance, as we learned at the beginning of this video. So I want to see, because Melissa replied there, I don't know about the stress hormones. It sounds like Melissa needs to take my coaching program because I go over that in my coaching program about how undereating is intricately linked with elevated cortisol and low leptin, and those help to drive insulin resistance and ultimately fat storage. Like it's really simple, actually. When you don't eat enough food, your body wants to store what you eat as fat. Okay. When you do eat enough carbohydrates, eventually that fat storage mechanism turns off as the body improves its insulin sensitivity, and then you end up, effortlessly lean, fit, and healthy. Okay. Melissa says, but digestion takes up a lot of your body's energy, particularly when you're eating fats and fiber. So it makes sense that if you're not digesting food all day long, you'll have more energy, as long as you've consumed enough food, of course. So that's from Melissa there. She sounds like she wants to be there. I know that there's an innocence to this, so I'm trying not to like be too harsh here, but at the same time, I'm identifying where the problems are at. And it's that she isn't eating enough. There's not enough carbohydrates in her diet. And there is too much fat and fiber, which is slowing down digestion, which is why she feels like she needs to do the IF. Plus, not enough carbs, too much fat, too much fiber, all impairs gut motility in terms of its timing. Okay, so it's going to slow everything down and make you feel super, super full and uncomfortable and promote gas and bloating. So these are just things to look out for, when it comes to following other social media influencers. I mean, she has a bigger following than I do, 94K subs. So big reach here with a moderately disordered eating message. But I'm going to say that is it for this video. Please leave any comments or questions down below if you agree or disagree. Maybe Melissa will watch this, maybe not. But what I will say is that the tweaks that she should make include more carbohydrates, balancing low calorie density foods with higher calorie density carbohydrate options like juice and dried fruit, dates, sugar, and flour products. And then ditching the IF, just eat when you're hungry, okay? Lower the fat content. Maybe take a break from having so much fiber too, and that'll help you to feel better with your digestion as well. Okay, so yeah, that's it for today's video. Please like, share, and subscribe if you haven't. Um, for those of you who are not VIP members, I do post lives weekly, at least two, that are for members only. And I, talk way more about like personal things and what I'm doing and recipes and what I'm eating and things like that. So if you're not a member yet, go check that out. All right. Thank you again for watching today, and I'll see you guys next time. Good luck, Melissa. Bye. Okay, actually, I have one more thing to say because I'm reading, these little things that she has written on the screen here. Not eating at night has so many benefits: more energy, time to get other things done, less likely to mindlessly snack while watching, etc. What I will say is that when you make the majority of your diet fruit and like sugar, but fruit mostly. So I eat a fruit till four diet. It doesn't take a lot of energy to digest at all. If I was eating the way that she likes to eat, where there are three starch meals a day, which is what she showed in her video here with the burrito and the oatmeal and the gnocchi, I would feel like absolutely bloated and like my body needed to take a lot of time to deal with the food that I put in it. But because I eat a fruit-based diet and I have juice instead of coffee for breakfast or for my beverage, my morning beverage. And then I have a fruit meal for breakfast. Today I had a smoothie. And then for lunch, I have a fruit meal. I had this packet of dates, and then I've been eating these grapes. I've had a big bowl of grapes. I've gotten through this while doing this video. Um, I don't have any digestive discomfort whatsoever. There's no brain fog. I'm very productive, and it's like a win-win situation, right? So maybe opting for a fruit-based diet would be helpful to her instead of doing this IF. She could save her starch meals for this 4 to 5 hour window and then have fruit and juice and dried fruit and dates and, sugary treats throughout the day, instead. So that would positively benefit her metabolism more and, uh, yeah, overall be better for her health, especially in terms of insulin sensitivity. Because again, sugar tolerance is impaired by starvation or just under eating carbohydrates. Um, or the taking of diets with a higher content of fat, which is what she's doing. So she hasn't adjusted her carbohydrate intake. She's just added more fats and then probably actually eating less food now because she's got this IF window of feeding only 4 to 5 hours. Um, Keep in mind that diets containing excess of carbohydrates improve glucose tolerance and insulin sensitivity. So, proof is in the research. It's something that I personally experienced as well. So, good luck to Melissa. That's it for this video. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.